Hey, welcome to our podcast. Following me shortly to do the second half is Lauren Cuny. I'm Hannah T. And we wanted to stimulate a conversation on sexual assault amongst institutions, and why we wanted to focus on this is because we are college women who go to a college institution, and it's such like a crucial topic that I feel as if most college institutions just kind of brush on it. They don't really like understand the true impact, and most justice systems that, like, whether it's like a school justice system or even like administration or even the actual justice system, doesn't really satisfy or fulfill the justice that survivors or victims deserve. So we wanted to talk about like the dynamics that are involved in such a crucial topic, and we totally understand that, you know, this might be really hard to listen to, but we hope that you listen and really sit there and ponder with, like, this does happen out in the world and it's super upsetting, but we wanted to just kind of walk you through different examples that we found in our own personal hot topics on it. So me and Lauren, we kind of split up what resources we found, and we are more into documentaries and more of like the film aspect, just because me personally, I'm a visual learner, and I think we both are, obviously, to some degree. And, you know, when we were discussing what we found in the different films, it was all very repetitive. It was a group of girls and they're sharing their experiences, and it kind of just talked about how the system failed them. So we looked at the documentary The Hunting Ground, and we also looked at the documentary It Happened Here. We dived more into the book Fraternity Gang Rape. We looked at the Title IX manual, Not Alone, and we also looked at the Campus Sexual Assault National Common Agenda. So when we were looking at it, we kind of wanted to brush different kind of surfaces. So when we were both watching the films, we were discussing how, you know, we wanted it to kind of be two different sets of eyes. So Lauren was gonna be more diving into the key points and the resources that we found, and what their main message was, what did they cover, and then I wanted to see, you know, for myself, when I was watching it, what did they not cover. So just to get into that, so for The Hunting Ground, I felt as if pretty much every single resource that we looked at, there was not really any intersectionality involved. You know, it was kind of just your typical white straight individuals, which it made them the perfect victim. And, you know, there was no actual deeper focus on different aspects. You know, when they were talking about what happened with the football player, they were kind of basing it off of only athletics, and I feel as if college institutions kind of hide when sexual assault happens within athletics, or within different groups of people, or even different groups that they're associated in school. And you know, there was no, I feel there could have been more of a deeper focus on Greek life and the role that like males should like take to be an ally and to like educate themselves. You know, like it kind of just talks about the negative effects of like what the victims experienced, which obviously we need to bring that to the surface, but we also need to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And for that to not happen again, we need to gain more like perspective on the fact that, you know, you can post or like say something about sexual assault, but I feel as if like some people really don't resonate with the horrifying aspects of sexual assault until they're like properly educated on it. And it was like the same thing in the It Happened Here documentary, you know, like there was no like real like systematic reform or like solution, and even then like there was no education because they weren't really talking about like bystander prevention. And in the book Fraternity, Gang Rape and Brotherhood and Privilege on Campus, it's like the same thing. Like I feel like they didn't really touch on the broader campus culture, you know, like the non-fraternal groups. Like there's always, I feel like in most documentaries, there's always just like one set of a certain group that I feel like they focus on, like they narrow it down, and that's totally fine to have a more like narrow scope than a broader one. But like you could touch a little bit more on, I feel like, each factor to where it's more like equalized. And I mean, there's also in that book, there's sexual violence that happens beyond gang rape, which obviously gang rape is so crucial to talk about because I don't think a lot of people understand that does happen in college. Usually, like they signify that, you know, sexual violence or assault can just happen with like two people, not like multiple like quantities of people. And in the Not Alone manual, like, still again, like, they didn't really touch on, like, intersectionality. So, like, if I had to, like, break it down to, like, the main three things that they didn't really, that all sources, like, or I feel like even more than the sources that we looked into, like, they don't touch on intersectionality and, like, marginalized groups. Educating individuals and breaking like the binary, like on that, like it's not like a certain set of people that can commit or experience like sexual violence. In the campus sexual assault national common agenda, it's like the same thing. There could have been more education on like the trauma and informed approaches from the system and like survivor support, and, you know, breaking that barrier with the relationship between like campus systems and the criminal justice system, and like how the survivors can get the proper justice that they deserve. And like in our own like personal thought and perspective, we wanted to kind of, you know, for the future time, we wanted to make sure that, you know, people like understand like a more like leadership commitment from the administration. And like, you know, when you're making, why does it take like making a film for these things to stop happening, you know? And like what something that I think that what steps we can make to have like a positive change is like mandating consent education and integrating prevention into like campus culture. Like there's just so many steps that, you know, like institutions need to be able to like take accountability for, and like there needs to be like more like support groups, like even like on because we go to UD, so I mean even on like Delaware campus, I really only think there's like the peer consent program, which is through like Blue Hens Care, which is awesome. But I feel like it didn't really get brought into terms till recently, because I didn't hear anything about it, and because I'm a junior now, I didn't hear anything about it till last year when I was a sophomore. It wasn't really brought to my attention. And, you know, I get the privilege to be able to take like a sexual assault studies class so I can further educate myself. But, you know, when most people like aren't really gonna make that step. Like, I just don't feel like sexual violence or any kind of, you know, trauma that may happen to you on campus is not really talked about, and because it's such like a detrimenting topic. But it needs to be talked about, because it's never going to stop. You know, there needs to be education for not only students, but also for those in like these positions of high authority, like President DeSantis. He could literally, like, I think the only time that I've ever heard anything from our president was the case discussing Brandon Fryer back in like 2021. That was the only time I ever heard anything, and I am 110% sure. Well, actually, I know that there have been multiple sexual assault cases that have been brought to the attention of others, and or even admin. And I know there's a lot that have also not been talked about too. So, but, you know, we just need to be better educated. Like, the only reason why I know more education on how to take care of myself and how to, like, you know, be able to stand up for myself if that were to happen was because I took classes for it, you know, and like it shouldn't have to be that way. So, well, that was just my little glimpse. But as me and Lauren have very like similar ideals, and we also like discovered that we're very similar people. There's such a sense of like innocence being taken away from victims that experience like sexual assault, or like sexual violence, or even like partner intimate violence, and all those accounts. And I think what we discovered is that, you know, like, I think we discovered that it's upsetting. Well, no, obviously we already knew that, but we discovered more about ourselves on like how we could help others. Like, if we personally knew anyone who went through sexual assault or sexual violence, we would now know like how to be that support for them. And we found out that we're very, like I said, like we're very similar people, and we have like similar ideals on how the world works. Not even like just with sexual assault, just like all other factors that could happen in college. So, but thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and now I guess I will pass it off to Lauren.